After reading through the 5 surpassing paths to cultivation, the intricate stages and requirements of key refining become clear. 14 detailed levels, each more complex than the last, and each demanding mastery over incantations, spiritual meridians, and esoteric techniques. The path seems daunting, especially for those with mixed spiritual roots, but determination prevails, choosing the earth, surpassing path due to its connection to previously mastered martial arts. The first spiritual meridian is activated after months of arduous effort and the consumption of countless spirit stones. The inefficiency and difficulty are apparent, but the support of the Chungmun clan provides new opportunities, a specialized earth cultivation manual, and the advice to focus on understanding the true meaning of mantras before pursuing breakthroughs, a reversal of the path taken by those with exceptional talent. Participating in the clan's regular meetings for chi refining cultivators offers insight into the varied struggles of others and, surprisingly, reveals that most cultivators are unable to perceive the colors of intent, something that martial artists at the 5 energies converging to the origin can do, setting them apart in ways previously unimagined. The Cheongmun clan's martial spirit is further highlighted by their annual Immortal Combat meeting, a fierce contest that shapes the personalities and ambitions of its members. Suddenly, news arrives of the Jin clan's ascension to the throne of Yangguo, which opens the way for an envoy mission to the newly crowned clan. The selection is competitive, but through cunning and restraint, the protagonist secures a place among the 20 chosen. The journey to the Jin clan's main house is awe-inspiring, with the clan's headquarters hidden atop a volcano, shrouded by an immense illusion barrier. Upon arrival, the overwhelming presence of a core formation cultivator is felt, but it is easily deflected thanks to advanced martial arts consciousness. A banquet is held and Kim Young-hoon, now a renowned martial artist, is introduced as the architect behind the throne's usurpation. Despite skepticism from the various envoy clans, Kim Young-hoon faces their best key refining cultivators in a series of martial contests, defeating them all with ease and leaving everyone in shock. As the Chongmun clan hesitates to send another challenger, the protagonist steps forward, drawing his sword and meeting Kim Young-hoon's gaze. Recognition and anticipation spark between them, and for the first time, Kim Young-hoon draws his saber. Their auras clash, setting the stage for a long-awaited duel between two who have continually pushed the boundaries of martial arts and cultivation, both eager to see how far each has come. The duel between two martial artists explodes onto the sparring ground, each unleashing the full depth of their Severing Mountain swordsmanship and Severing Vein saber method. Their blades clash in a dazzling display, each move countered with equal mastery, red and blue lines of intent swirling as their techniques escalate. The exchange quickly rises from the peak level to the mysterious 3 flowers. Gather at the summit, their stances and movements communicating unspoken words and shared sentiments about longing, home, and hardship. Each strike is more than a test of strength. It's a conversation, laden with the memories and emotions of past regressions and lost companions. Their duel ascends again, both stepping into the realm of 5 energies, converging to the origin, where intent and technique blur with illusion and reality. Sword gang and saber gang fill the air, their killing intent so potent that the very ground cracks beneath them. Amidst the chaos, their minds converse about the origins and meaning of the martial arts they wield, revealing that the Severing Vein saber method was born from longing for home, an echo of the humanity at the core of their journey. The battle intensifies, culminating in the ultimate techniques, Severing Mountain and Saber Tomb. These moves, embodying the hopes and regrets of their creators, collide with devastating force. Yet Kim Young-hoon pushes beyond, unveiling the record of surpassing cultivation in martial arts and manifesting a Ganki compression sphere. In that moment, the protagonist understands how to transcend his current realm, witnessing Kim Young-hoon's vow to relentlessly pursue a way home, even as the cruel truth is that the Ascension Gate, their only possible path back, will not open again for 1,000 years. Rather than shatter Kim Young-hoon's hope, the protagonist asks him to name the realm he has just pioneered. Kim Young-hoon calls it the ultimate pinnacle, reaching the peak to create the ultimate. With that, overwhelmed by the battle and enlightenment, the protagonist loses consciousness, leaving the future of martial arts and the pursuit of home hanging in the balance. Waking to the sharp tang of unfamiliar medicinal herbs, the protagonist finds himself in the Jin clan's medicinal hall, quickly realizing he is being closely monitored via a spell-attuned jade stone. Changmun Byuk and a physician soon arrive, confirming his health and expressing admiration for the protagonist's duel, which impressed even the Jin clan's head. The protagonist is praised for bringing merit to the Chongmun clan and is told his achievements will be rewarded. However, Changmun Byuk is curious about his martial path, referencing the rare and arduous attainment of the five energies converging to the origin, a state reached only through immense struggle or by anomalies like Kim Young-hoon or the protagonist himself, who traverses time. Changmun Byuk demonstrates pure spiritual force, or gang chi, explaining, "This is the norm for chi building cultivators whose bodies are constantly suffused with this pure, resilient energy." The protagonist recognizes the gulf in power and purity between himself and such cultivators, understanding why only those with gang sphere can oppose chi building experts. When asked what reward he would like, the protagonist requests the opportunity to pursue understanding before breakthrough, hoping to deepen his comprehension of spells and mantras. Changmun Byuk agrees to recommend him to a dedicated spells researcher, Changmun Ryong. Additionally, the Jin clan's head offers a boon, and the protagonist asks to visit the mortals in the clan's territory, specifically those formerly trained for assassination by the Mockley clan, now reduced to common laborers after their lack of martial talent was discovered. Permission is granted, with the caveat that he be supervised. Kim Young-hoon, now a Jin clan representative, is one of his guides. They reflect on the meaning and limits of martial pursuit, with Kim Young-hoon joyfully declaring his belief that new realms can be pioneered beyond even the ultimate pinnacle. The conversation reveals Kim Young-hoon's happiness in martial practice, in contrast to the protagonist's more somber, duty-bound relationship with the art. They spar, clashing not only with physical techniques but with threads of consciousness and gang chi, demonstrating the profound depths of the record of surpassing cultivation and martial arts. Kim Young-hoon's understanding allows him to control his gang sphere as if it were alive, outmaneuvering the protagonist's flying sword and offering encouragement to keep seeking new heights. Venturing into the mortals' quarters, the protagonist observes his former disciples, not as assassins, but as ordinary people thriving in trades and crafts, medicine, weaving, carpentry. He notes their growth and contentment, feeling both joy for their peaceful lives and sorrow that they are not truly his disciples, but echoes from another timeline. Visiting Nokhyong, he sees the young man's workshop filled with wooden sculptures of family, a testament to lingering grief, but also healing. Seeing Manho, now happily married to Kaiwa and expecting a child, the protagonist is moved to tears, overwhelmed by the possibility of happier lives for those once bound to blood and death. The reality of regression, endlessly repeating cycles and relationships that are never quite the same, strikes deeply. He realizes that, despite his efforts to separate from the past, the feelings and memories of former lives remain. After quietly blessing Manho and Kaiwa, he slips away, resolved more than ever to break free from the cycle of regression and to seek higher realms, lest his life and struggles be rendered meaningless by the whims of time. Returning to the Changmun clan with renewed determination, he becomes a disciple of Changmun Ryong, vowing to press forward no matter the cost, to shatter the boundaries that bind him, and to reach heights never before seen. Upon being reluctantly accepted by Changmun Ryong, the journey of cultivation deepened. Initially dismissed and given only a book to study, perseverance eventually wore down the old master, and grudging tutelage began, always laced with scorn and curses. Life became a cycle of relentless study, reciting the 72 earthly fiends, true words, forming hand seals until fingerprints vanished and fingers bled, and cultivating spiritual meridians with every waking moment. Martial arts practice continued alongside, with the sword soaring under, dual energy sword control, but the main focus was always on advancing through the esoteric arts of cultivation. Years blurred together. After 10 years, all true words were mastered. Spiritual meridians awakened, and the second star of chi refining was reached. Changmun Ryong berated the slow progress, but instruction nevertheless continued, guiding through the next stage, the 36 heavenly spirits' law decrees, and the condensation of spiritual natures. 12 more years passed in this manner. With every step, more resources and knowledge were granted, yet impatience grew. Life was slipping by, and the goal remained distant. With the final understanding of the 36 heavenly spirits, the spiritual meridians thickened, and the third star of chi refining was achieved. Changmun Ryong no longer able to contain his frustration, allowed face to face lessons, pushing for faster progress. The 12 earthly melodies were then introduced, requiring comprehension of 12 types of spiritual energy and the deployment of complex formations. 6 more years vanished in rigorous study until the third star was secured. Chongmun Ryong, exasperated but determined, forced immediate study of the 10 heavenly stems diagram, a synthesis of yin, yang, and the 5 elements, each principle represented by ancient characters. Through direct demonstration, he showed how these principles integrated with the 12 earthly melodies to create myriad variations in formations and spellcasting, demanding mastery within 3 years. Progress was slow, but eventually the principles were absorbed, the Earth's energy responded to command, and the 4th star of key refining was attained. The nature of combat changed. Now, the surroundings themselves could be dominated and manipulated through formation domains, echoing the overwhelming force of past adversaries. 5 more years of intense guidance followed, assimilating the 60 variations of spiritual energy into the meridians, strengthening the body and mind, until at last the long-awaited breakthrough came. The 5th star of Qi refining was reached. In that moment of triumph, even Chongmun Ryong, the ever-grumbling master, could not conceal his joy. Together, master and disciple, bonded by years of struggle and persistence, laughed and embraced, celebrating the achievement that had once seemed impossible. After decades of arduous cultivation under his master's gruff but caring tutelage, he progresses through the advanced stages of key refining, mastering the intricate principles of the 9 palaces and the 8 trigrams. Each breakthrough is hard-won, the years slipping by as he transforms his body and spiritual meridians, his lifespan extended but still a looming concern. When his master offers a precious blessing pill capable of adding years to his life, he refuses, knowing the elixir is made from human lives, and instead buries it with a prayer for the soul sacrificed to create it. Despite understanding the risk to his own future, he cannot forsake his humanity for power or longevity. With the foundation of his cultivation now laid, he embarks on the critical 7 stars ritual, a ceremony meant to connect him to the celestial deities and affirm his place on the path of immortal cultivation. His master, meticulous in his preparations, chooses auspicious times and sacred sites, but every attempt at the ritual is thwarted. Dark clouds gather unnaturally, blocking the stars and severing the connection needed for the ceremony. No matter the location or calculation, the heavens intervene each time, leaving both disciple and master in disbelief and frustration. After repeated failures, his master scours the ancient texts for answers. When he finally returns, exhausted and hollow-eyed, he delivers a devastating revelation. The world itself is forbidding him from advancing as a cultivator. It is not a matter of talent or effort. He simply does not possess the fate to walk the path of immortal cultivation. The heavens themselves have barred his way, and there is nothing more his master can do. The revelation that the heavens forbid further cultivation hits hard, leading to a deep conversation with the master about fate and free will. The master explains that fate does exist and is woven into the world itself, but that doesn't mean free will is meaningless. Within the limits set by fate, beings can act freely. Cultivators, as they progress, can perceive the boundaries of their own lifespans, and while they can extend life through higher realms, the permission to do so is ultimately a gift from the heavens, predetermined by spiritual roots, talent, and what is called fate. The master confesses his own limitations, admitting that even with determination and research, he could only reach the early chi building stage because of his weak spiritual meridians, and he apologizes for being unable to help further. Determined not to give in, the search for a loophole or exception continues in the ancient texts of the Changmun clan. Despite the odds, the hope remains that there might be a way for someone like him, born without the approval of the heavens, to break through. The books reveal that fate is like a path. People are free to walk it as they wish, but they cannot exceed its limits. Yet there are tales of mortals who, through sincerity or ritual, manage to move the heavens and achieve miracles, suggesting that effort and devotion can sometimes shift the boundaries of fate. With renewed determination, master and disciple perform ritual after ritual, traveling to famous mountains and sacred places, always striving and always denied by the gathering clouds that block the celestial energy. Still, they persist, believing that if the heavens refuse once, they must try 10 times, 100, 1,000. Alongside these efforts, there is continued study of higher cultivation realms and martial arts, and occasional meetings with Kim Young-hoon to deepen understanding of both the five energies converging to the origin and the advanced stages of chi refining. As the day of predetermined death approaches, the rituals continue, each one met with failure. Yet, the protagonist does not give up even as the master tries to push for another attempt. Instead, a quiet request is made to postpone the next ritual, as there is something personal that must be done on the eve of the fated day. Despite all the effort, study, and sincerity, the sense of a closing book, the story ending at the prescribed limit, looms near, but hope and determination remain unbroken, with the promise to return for one last attempt, harnessing spiritual energy. A paper boat transformed into a flying vessel, carrying the protagonist swiftly to the border between Byokra and Yangwo. Upon arrival, a tense reunion with Kim Young-hoon unfolded, marked by a brief exchange of sword energy and mutual acknowledgement of progress. Kim Young-hoon revealed he had begun cultivating, albeit only to enhance his martial arts, and detailed a plan to exploit a loophole in the treaties between the Jin and Mokli clans, one that would allow them to lawfully kill a Mokli clan chi-building elder who had crossed into another nation's territory. The protagonist requested to read Kim Young-hoon's heavily annotated martial arts manual, and with his expanded consciousness, was able to memorize its entire contents at a glance. Preparing for the coming battle, he wrote a concealed farewell letter to his master, planning to send it via talisman at the right moment to spare his master from witnessing his impending death. When the day of the plan arrived, dark clouds heavy with yin energy heralded the approach of the Mokli clan elder, once a dreaded enemy from the destruction of the palace of heavenly demons. Kim Young-hoon and the Jin clan's formation trapped the elder, and a fierce battle erupted. The Mokli elder, desperate and wounded, wielded powerful spells, but Kim Young-hoon, supported by the Jin clan's healing cultivators, pressed the attack. The elder, cornered and invoking the treaties for protection, found no mercy. Seizing a fleeting opening, the protagonist unleashed the decisive technique of lurking in the shadows. Endless attack, joined by Kim Young-hoon's own assault, overwhelming the elder's mind. Exploding from underground with severing mountain swordsmanship, the protagonist's sword gang struck through the elder's weakened defenses, severing his neck just as a blue light sign of a life-saving artifact flared within the corpse's embrace. The Mokli clan elder, gravely wounded but clinging to life with spiritual power, tries to bargain for mercy and compensation, warning of the looming Great War and the importance of every cultivator. But his pleas are met with silence and renewed attacks. Using a life-saving artifact, he barely escapes lethal blows, breaking through barriers and leaving destruction in his wake as he flees toward the Mokli clan outpost. The protagonist and Kim Young-hoon relentlessly pursue him, employing sword techniques and spells to hinder his escape. But the elder, despite being mortally wounded, proves nearly impossible to kill. He uses pills and artifacts to regenerate and evade, his vitality seemingly endless, and even as his body is torn apart, he continues to cling to life, the classic resilience of a chi-building cultivator. As day turns to night, the pursuit grows increasingly desperate. The protagonist and Kim Young-hoon coordinate their attacks, finally overwhelming the elder in a joint assault. The dying Mokli clan elder, defeated and reduced to a pitiful state, mocks the protagonist's words about mortality, then suddenly self-destructs in a blinding flash. But the explosion is only a feint. A river of corpse poison surges forth, spilling out zombies and heralding the arrival of a new, formidable enemy, a late-stage key-building cultivator of the Mokli clan, accompanied by a younger, mid-stage key-building cultivator. The atmosphere grows tense as accusations fly over the assassination of Mokli Yun Ryan, the clan's revered alchemist. The Mokli cultivators vow revenge, and the protagonist, knowing his end is near, urges Kim Young-hoon to flee while he buys time. He throws himself at the younger cultivator, unleashing all his sword techniques, but is effortlessly repelled. The gap in power is staggering. His strongest attacks shatter, and he is struck down with ease. Broken, bleeding, and immobilized, he is mocked and condemned as an insect, lifted by a spell to be executed across the border, the futility of his struggle laid bare. Just as all hope seems lost, a powerful explosion shatters the spell. The protagonist's master, Chungmun-ryong, appears and stands before him. Despite the confusion about how he arrived so quickly, The master reveals he used a superior transmission talisman, having sensed his disciple's desperation from his letter. A poignant exchange followed. The master's sorrow is palpable as he scolds and comforts his disciple, expressing regret for being unable to save him and insisting that at least a proper farewell be made. Maklijun interrupts, declaring his intent to execute both master and disciple for violating borders. But Changmun Ryong corrects him, explaining the true boundaries for cultivators are determined by the flow of dragon veins, not mortal laws. With a surge of power, the master alters the land's spiritual energy, reclaiming it as Changmun territory and warning Maklijun not to interfere with his disciple's final moments. Despite Maklijun's attempts to resist, he is easily overpowered by the master's superior control of formations and dragon veins. The chapter closes with the master's fierce declaration to protect his disciple at all costs, refusing to allow anyone to harm him in his last moment. Maklijun, brimming with arrogance, belittles both master and disciple, declaring his intent to reclaim the land by force and claiming superiority over Changmun Ryong. As darkness and yin energy gather in the sky, the disciple, weakened and sensing death's approach, expresses his faith in his master's strength and pleads for him to prove the worth of his teaching. Changmun Ryong, moved by his disciples' words, calmly accepts the challenge. He addresses Maklijun's insults, refuting each with evidence of his disciples' perseverance and worth, and unleashes his mastery over wood element spiritual energy. A vast formation emerges, sprouting a forest and culminating in a colossal tree woven from countless spells and incantations. As Maklijun attacks with cow dragons and yin rain, Changmun Ryung's giant tree counters, illuminating the night and pushing back the darkness. The tree transforms into a massive wooden figure in his likeness, wielding spells with unmatched precision, overwhelming Maklijun's attack. Despite suffering a heart attack and repeated attempts by fate to end his life, the disciple refuses to die, forcefully reviving his heart with spiritual power, clinging to life to witness his master's final glory. The battle climaxes as Changmun Ryong's wooden giant unleashes a shower of spell, fruits upon Maklijun, obliterating him entirely, then turns the attack on Maklijun, whose defeat is sealed with Kim Yong-hoon's intervention. As the spiritual energy dissipates, master and disciple share a final, heartfelt farewell. The disciple, exhausted and knowing death is near, performs the traditional prostrations, expressing his gratitude before collapsing. Changmun Ryong, grieving, plants a seed upon his disciple's body, which grows into a towering quince tree, a living memorial. As dawn breaks and a wind rises, the master gazes upward, mourning the seventh passing of Seo Yun-hyun, the disciple who had become the giant tree in his heart. Upon awakening from his seventh regression, sorrow lingers from his previous life's loss, but with resolve, he uses a perfected hand seal to keep his companions asleep while he sorts through the aftermath of his return. His consciousness, now immense after cultivation, overwhelms his current body until he eats yellow bamboo roots and undergoes the five energies, converging to the origin, finally harmonizing body and mind and regaining his spiritual roots. He realizes that only his soul and consciousness regress, allowing him to retain growth from previous cycles. Determined but troubled by the heavens barring his further advancement in cultivation, he prepares for the coming of three powerful heavenly being cultivators. When they arrive, the prodigious talents of his companions draw their attention, while his own unusual consciousness piques only mild interest, as his five elements. Spiritual roots are considered unremarkable compared to the legendary constitutions of his friends. Pleading desperately for an opportunity, he demonstrates his martial prowess, but the cultivators refuse to take him, explaining their sects can only afford to sponsor the most extraordinary candidates for the Ascension Gate's opening. Undeterred, he begs for advice on breaking through the heavens' rejection, only to be met with violence and disdain from the Golden Divine, Heavenly Thunder Sex Master, and the Black Ghost Valley's White Bone Ghost Devil. Only Azure Tiger Saint shows some compassion, healing him and offering a recommendation letter, but warns that the timing and competition make his acceptance unlikely. When he mentions appealing to the mysterious, puppet-controlling Mad Lord, all three cultivators react with alarm and disgust, warning him that the Mad Lord is not only insane and unpredictable, but harbors a dangerous obsession with martial artists, often turning them into living puppets. Even the Sea Dragon King, when asked, reacts with rare agitation, confirming the Mad Lord's depravity and urging him to avoid any contact. Realizing the threat to manager Kim Yeon, whose awakening will soon attract the Mad Lord, he begs the Sea Dragon King to take her as a disciple to ensure her safety. After much persuasion and the promise that she will soon demonstrate her abilities, the Sea Dragon King reluctantly agrees, putting Kim Yon and the others to sleep and preparing to take them out of the Ascension Path. Before they leave, he imparts all his accumulated martial techniques, knowledge, and vital information to Kim Young-hoon, hoping his old friend will avoid past tragedies and act wisely in this life. Choosing solitude, he decides to stay behind within the dense spiritual energy of the Ascension Path, vowing to defy the heaven's rejection by relentless cultivation and ritual, even if it takes decades of loneliness. As the Sea Dragon King departs with the others, he steels himself for the long struggle ahead, determined not to let his master's teachings be wasted and to someday win the heavens' permission for true cultivation.